Hello boys and girls, welcome back to story time. So we're going to carry on this evening with chapter 14, which is called Silence Like Snow. So here we go, chapter 14. You complete bleep! Oops, sorry. I know even though real children do swear, you mustn't have swearing in a children's book. Please forgive me. I really am a bleep. Sorry. You shouldn't swear, Lisa, said Dennis. Why not? Lisa asked angrily. Because a teacher might hear you. I don't care who hears me, said Lisa. How could you do that to poor Miss Windsor? I know, I feel so bad. She's probably weeping into her beef bourguignon now, said Lisa as they stepped out into the busy playground. It was lunchtime and people stood in groups, chatting and laughing, enjoying their hour of partial freedom. Football games were breaking out everywhere, games that Dennis would normally have joined in with, had he not been wearing a wig, makeup and an orange sequin dress, and high heels. Maybe I should go and apologise, said Dennis. Maybe, said Lisa. You have to. Let's go and find her in the dining hall. She should be there, unless she's jumped into the River Seine. Seine? The river. Oh, don't make me feel any worse. As they made their way across the playground, a football rolled past them. Kick it back, love, shouted Darvesh. Dennis couldn't help it. The urge to kick the ball was too strong. Don't be too flash, said Lisa as he ran after the ball. But Dennis couldn't help himself and chased it aggressively. He stopped it neatly, then took a run up to kick it back to his friend. But as he kicked the ball, his high-heeled shoe flew off and he toppled backwards. At that moment, his wig slipped back off his head and onto the ground. Denise became Dennis again. Time seemed to slow down. There Dennis was, standing in the middle of the playground, in a girl's dress and makeup, with one shoe on. Silence spread across the playground like snow. Everyone stopped what they were doing and turned back to look at him. Dennis? Asked Darvesh incredulously. No, it's Denise, replied Dennis. But the game was up. Dennis felt like he'd looked at Medusa, that Greek mythology monster who turned people to stone. He couldn't move. He looked at Lisa. Her face was dark with worry. Dennis tried to smile. Then, out of the silence came a laugh. Then another. Then another. Not the kind of laughter that greets something funny, but that cruel, mocking laugh, meant to hurt and humiliate. The laughter became louder and louder and louder, and Dennis felt as if the whole world was laughing at him for all eternity. Lots of laughter, look. Everyone's looking at him and laughing. Poor Dennis. And even more laughter. You, boy, boomed a voice from the school building. The laughter stopped in an instant. As their school looked up, it was Mr. Hawtrey, the headmaster with the heart of darkness. Me, sir? Asked Dennis, with a misguided tone of innocence. Yes, you, the boy in the dress. Dennis looked around the playground, but he was the only boy wearing a dress. Yes, sir? Come to my office, now. Dennis started to walk slowly towards the school building. Everyone watched him take each uncertain, wobbling step. Lisa picked up the other shoe. Dennis, she called after him. He turned round. I've got your other shoe. Dennis turned back. There's no time for that boy, bellowed Mr. Hawtrey, his little moustache twitching with rage. Dennis sighed and click-clacked his way to the headmaster's office. Everything in the office was black, or very dark brown. Leather volumes of school records lined the shelves, along with some old black and white photographs of previous headmasters, whose stern expressions made Mr. Hawtrey look almost human. Dennis had never been in this room before. But then it wasn't a room you ever wanted to visit. Seeing inside meant only one thing. You were in deep poo. Are you deranged, boy? No, sir. Then why are you wearing an orange sequin dress? I don't know, sir. You don't know? No, sir. Mr. Hawtrey leaned forward. Is that lipstick? Dennis wanted to cry, but even though Mr. Hawtrey could see a tear welling up in Dennis's eye, he continued his assault. Dressing up like that in makeup and high heels? It's disgusting. Sorry, sir. A tear rolled down Dennis's cheek. He caught it with his tongue. That bitter taste again. He hated that taste. I hope you are utterly ashamed of yourself, continued Mr. Hawtrey. Are you ashamed of yourself? Dennis hadn't felt ashamed of himself before, but he did now. Yes, sir. I can't hear you, boy. Yes, sir. Dennis looked down for a moment. Mr. Hawtrey had black fire in his eyes, and it was hard to keep looking at him. I'm really sorry. It's too late for that, boy. You've been skiving off your lessons, upsetting teachers. You're a disgrace. I'm not having a degenerate like you in my school. But, sir, you are expelled. But what about the cup final on Saturday, sir? I have to play. There will be no more football for you, boy. Please, sir, I'm begging you. I said you are expelled. You must leave the school premises immediately. And there he is, look. Mr. Hawtrey telling off poor old Dennis. We'll go on to chapter 15, which is called There Was Nothing More to Say. Expelled? Yes, Dad. Expelled? Yes. What on earth for? Dennis and his dad were sitting in the lounge. It was 5 p.m. and Dennis had washed the makeup from his face and changed back into his own clothes. He'd hoped this might at least soften the blow. He'd been wrong. Well, Dennis wasn't sure he could find the words. He wasn't sure if he ever could find the words. He went to school dressed up as a girl, shouted John, pointing at Dennis, as if he was an alien who had momentarily fooled everyone by taking human form. He had clearly been listening at the door. You got dressed up as a girl? Asked Dad. Yes, replied Dennis. Have you done this before? A couple of times. A couple of times? Do you like dressing up as a girl? Dad had a look of distress in his eyes that Dennis hadn't seen since his mum left. A bit. Well, either you do or you don't. Deep breath. Well, yes, Dad, I do. It's just fun. What have I done to deserve this? My son likes wearing dresses. I don't, Dad, said John. I don't, Dad, said John, eager to score a point. I've never put on a dress, not even as a joke, and I never will. Thanks, John, said Dad. That's okay, Dad. Can I go to the freezer and have a Magnum? Yes, said Dad, distracted. You can have a Magnum. Thanks, Dad, said John, glowing with pride, as if he had just been given a badge that said #1 son on it. That's it. No more watching that show Small England, or whatever it is called, where those two idiots dress up like ladies. It's a bad influence. Yes, Dad. Now go to your room and do your homework, barked Dad. And there he is, look, looking very angry. I haven't got any homework. I've been expelled. Oh, yes, Dennis's dad thought for a moment. Well, just go to your room then. Dennis passed John, who was sitting on the stairs gleefully enjoying his Magnum. He lay on his bed in silence, thinking about how everything had been ruined simply by putting on a dress. Dennis took out the photograph he had saved from the bonfire of him, John and Mum at the beach. It was all he had left now. He gazed at the picture. He would give anything to be on that beach again with ice cream round his mouth. holding onto his mum's hand. Maybe if he stared long enough, it would disappear back into that. He would disappear back into that happy scene. But suddenly the picture was torn out of his hands. Dad held it up. "What's this?" "It's just a picture, Dad." "But I burnt them all. I don't want any reminders of that woman in the house." "I'm sorry, Dad. It just floated out of the bonfire onto a hedge." "Well, now it's going in the bin, like your magazine." "Please, Dad, don't. Let me keep it." Dennis snatched the photograph back. "How dare you? Give it to me now," shouted Dad. Dennis had never seen him so angry. He tentatively handed the picture back. "Have you got any others?" "No, Dad. That was the only one, I promise." "I don't know what to believe anymore. I blame your mother for all this dressing up business anyway. She was always too soft on you." Dennis was silent. There was nothing more to say. He carried on looking forward. He heard the door slam. An hour went by. Or was it a day? Or a month? Or a year? Dennis wasn't sure anymore. The present was somewhere he didn't want to be, and he couldn't see a future. His life was over, and he was only 12. And there he is, look, looking very upset. "He's not allowed out of his room, I'm afraid, Darvesh." Sorry, I've just skipped a bit. The doorbell rang, and a few moments later, Dennis heard Darvesh's voice downstairs, then his dad's. "He's not allowed out of his room, I'm afraid, Darvesh." "But I really need to see him, Mr. Sims." "It's not possible, I'm afraid. Not today. And if you see that stupid girl Lisa, who John says put him up to this dressing up thing, tell her to never show her face again." "Can you tell him I'm still his friend? Whatever's happened, he's still my friend. Can you tell him that?" "I'm not talking to him at the moment, Darvesh. It's best you go." Dennis heard the door shut and then went to the window. He could see Darvesh walking slowly down the drive, his patka getting wet in the rain. Darvesh turned back and caught sight of Dennis up at his bedroom window. He smiled sadly, giving a little wave. Dennis put his hand up to wave back, and then Darvesh disappeared out of sight. Dennis spent the whole day holed up in his room hiding from his dad. Just as night fell, Dennis heard a quiet tapping on the window. It was Lisa. She was standing on a ladder and trying to talk in a hushed tone. "What do you want?" asked Dennis. "I need to speak to you." "I'm not allowed to speak to anyone." "Just let me in for a minute, please." Dennis opened the window and Lisa climbed in. He sat back down on the bed. "I'm sorry, Dennis. I'm really sorry. I thought it would be fun. I didn't think it would end up like this." She put a hand on his shoulder, stroking his hair. No one had stroked Dennis's hair for years. His mum used to do it every night when she tucked him into bed. Somehow it made him want to cry. "It's ridiculous, isn't it?" Lisa whispered. "I mean, why are girls allowed to wear dresses and boys aren't? It doesn't make any sense." "It's okay, Lisa." "I mean, expelled? It's just not fair. Carl Bates didn't get expelled for mooning the school inspectors." "And I'm going to miss the football final." "I know. I'm sorry. Look, I never meant all this to happen. It's just crazy. I'm going to get Hawtrey to get you back into school." "Lisa." "I am. I don't know how yet, but I promise." Lisa hugged him and kissed him for a moment, just shy of his lips. It was a glorious kiss. How could it be anything but glorious? After all, her mouth was shaped like a kiss. "Dennis, I promise." And that's the end of chapter 15, boys and girls. We'll carry on with chapter 16 tomorrow. Bye.